25th chapter, beginning at verse 31. It says, "When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations. He shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. He shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, be blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was an hungered, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered and fed thee, or thirsty and gave thee drink? When did we see you as a stranger, took you in, or naked and clothed you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and came unto you? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you have done it unto the one of the least of my brethren, you have done it unto me. Then shall he also say unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into the everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungered, and you gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not take me in. Naked, and you didn't clothe me. Sick, and in prison, and you did not visit me. Then they answered, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry, or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister to you? Then he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not to me. These shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous to life eternal." Mr. Speaker, just before we pray, these are challenging and difficult times all over the planet. But we speak specifically to us here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. These are the times that we see the best in us, we can see the worst in us. This is the time, Mr. Speaker, that we must individually, it's a time to check ourselves, take stock of ourselves, see where we are, see where we need to be. Organizationally, business level, community level, to do likewise. This is not the time, Mr. Speaker, for businesses to price gouge. This is not the time for landlords to be insensitive. And for us as Bahamians, it's the time for us to shine. There's an African proverb that says, when spiders unite, they can tie up a lion. This is the time for national unity, a spirit of unity, regardless of the politics, regardless of religions, regardless of our differences. The one thing we have in common is all of us are faced with this enemy, this vicious enemy, who seeks to kill and to destroy. And with the spirit of unity, the spirit of humility, with the spirit of togetherness, we can defeat this enemy. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Peter Turnquist, Brent Simonet, Desmond Bannister, Brentwood Wells, Jeffrey Lloyd, Dr. Dwayne Sands, Marvin Dames, Frankie Campbell, Benicio de Aguila, Michael Pintard, Darren Henfield, Ramal Ferreira, Lanisha Rule, Renzel Rule, Ellsworth Johnson, Philip Davis, Vaughn Miller, Patricia Parker Edgecombe, Aram Lewis, Carlton Bolag, James Albury, Travis Robinson, Adrian Gibson, Ronald Saunders, Frederick McAlpine, Hank Johnson, Mark Hume, Michael Folk, Miriam Rackley Emmanuel, Reese Chipman, Ruben Ramming, Ricky Mackey, Shannon Dawn Cartwright, Chanel Ferguson, Glennis Hannah Martin, Picewell Forbes, Chester Cooper.
Good morning, honorable members. Introduction and swearing in of new members. Laying of documents by ministers. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. The Emergency COVID-19 number 2 Amendment number 7 Order 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the House a copy of the following. The Emergency Powers COVID-19 number 2 Amendment number 8 Order 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. The Emergency Powers COVID-19 number 2 Amendment number 7 Order 220.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. The Emergency Powers COVID-19 number 2 Amendment number 10 Order 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. The Emergency Powers COVID-19 Lockdown number 2 Order 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. Emergency Powers COVID-19 Lockdown number 3 Order 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. The Emergency Powers COVID-19 Lockdown number 3 Amendment Order 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. The Emergency Powers COVID-19 Special Provisions Amendment Order 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following: the Emergency Powers COVID-19 Amendment Number 4, Regulations 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers.
No, look, I don't know. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following: the Emergency Powers COVID-19 Amendment Number 5, Regulations 2020. You almost trapped me.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following: the Emergency Powers COVID-19 Amendment Number 6, Regulation 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers. Chair recognizes the honorable member for East Grand Bahama.
Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of the House Investment Funds Fee Rule 2020. Investment Funds Fee Rule 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers. Chair recognizes the honorable member for East Grand Bahama.
Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of the House the Investment Funds Prescribed Jurisdictions Rule 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers. Chair recognizes the honorable member for East Grand Bahama.
Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of the House the Bahamas Registered Stock Act, Chapter 362, Bahamas Registered Stock Directions 2020, Bahamas Registered Stock 2021.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers. The chair recognizes the member for East Grand Bahama.
Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of the House the Bahamas Registered Stock Act, Chapter 362, the Bahamas Registered Stock Directions 2020, Bahamas Registered Stock Number 2, 2023, 2025, 2027, 2030, 2040, and 2050.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers. Chair recognizes the honorable member for Bamboo Town.
Mr. Speaker, there are no further laying of documents by ministers.
Statements and communications by ministers. Chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I start, I would like to thank the great people of Kalani constituency who have given me this opportunity to represent them in this honorable House on now my third session. I also, Mr. Speaker, want to congratulate all of my ministers who has done an excellent job in dealing with this COVID pandemic that we face. Not only the ministers, but also parliamentarians who has done a good job, not just nationally, but also within their own constituency, as they've all displayed leadership and showed their constituents that they too were following this international pandemic very closely, monitoring the situation and doing all that they possibly can, not only in informing them as to the way forward, but also assisting them in meeting some of the problems that they face. But, Mr. Speaker, the House meets today to approve a resolution extending emergency powers in the Bahamas because of the COVID-19 global pandemic. I also wish to provide the House and the Bahamian people with an update on a range of matters in my government's ongoing, full, and comprehensive response to the pandemic. I wish at the outset, Mr. Speaker, to offer the condolences of the country and my personal condolences to those who have lost loved ones in this deadly virus. They remain in our hearts and in our prayers. Mr. Speaker, the resolution before the House, that is A, approves the continuance of the proclamation made on the 17th day of March 2020 until the 30th day of May 2020. B, it affirms the continuance in effect of the Emergency Powers COVID-19 Regulations 2020 made on the 17th day of March 2020 until the 30th day of May 2020. It also affirms the continuance in effect of the Emergency Powers COVID-19 number 2, Order 2020, made on the 23rd day of March 2020 until the 30th day of May 2020. It also affirms the continuance in effect of the Emergency Powers COVID-19 Special Provisions Order 2020, made on the 30th day of March 2020 until the 30th day of May 2020. Mr. Speaker, I know that some will be disappointed by the extension of the emergency orders, including workers, businesses who are hurting. But I assure them, and I assure all Bahamians and residents, that this short-term sacrifice and pain is absolutely necessary. It's needed, Mr. Speaker, to reduce the spread of the virus, to protect the health and safety of those we love, and to revive our economy as quickly as possible. Mr. Speaker, we must always be people of gratitude, because therein lies a source of spiritual strength and generosity. On behalf of the people and the government, and on my own behalf, we will never cease nor tire from expressing our profound gratitude to the healthcare professionals at every level who battle daily against this virus. These men and women, Mr. Speaker, place themselves at risk day after day to save lives and to heal their fellow citizens and residents. Mr. Speaker, they are heroes who never expected to be called to such a duty, but who are nonetheless serving us all in one of our greatest hours of need. We owe gratitude also to all the men and women in our law enforcement branches who help to ensure law and order, especially during these challenging times. I salute all public officers who continue to perform their duties in every government ministry and agency. I salute also private citizens and those businesses who have demonstrated generosity of spirit and an unwavering commitment to the common good. This includes, Mr. Speaker, those business enterprises that continue to sustain and to support staff members and workers during this terrible and devastating economic downturn. I appeal once again to those businesses and citizens with a capacity to do so, to continue to support their workers and continue to support their employees. This is a time, Mr. Speaker, of national solidarity. This is a time when we must demonstrate that we are truly one Bahamas. And to demonstrate this national solidarity, Mr. Speaker, I'm asking all Bahamians that tomorrow they should all wear a color of the flag, which would be demonstrating our solidarity and our commitment to defeat this invisible enemy. Mr. Speaker, we said at the beginning of the spread of COVID-19 in the Bahamas, among our best measures for fighting this outbreak are measures such as staying at home, physical distancing, and other vital measures such as curfews and lockdowns. We fight an enemy that we cannot see, an enemy that has already taken the lives of over 200,000 individuals and worldwide, and in excess of 50,000 individuals in the U.S. alone. Contact tracing and the temporary quarantine and isolation of those exposed to the virus are also vital measures to arrest the spread of the virus and to save and to protect lives. I join the Minister of Health in recognizing the outstanding and valiant work of the surveillance officers at the Ministry of Health. In our fight against COVID-19, we should not only praise our healthcare professionals and law enforcement officers. As a sign of our gratitude, we join them in the fight against the virus by staying at home and by wearing our mask and practicing discipline and social distancing. We must all do our part. And I want to send a special notice out to those in Harbor Island and Exuma who over the weekend were engaged in partying. Mr. Speaker, we will deal with such individuals. This is a time for solidarity, not only for New Providence and Grand Bahama, but for the entire Bahamas. And again, I ask that each and every Bahamian wear a color of the Bahamian flag tomorrow to demonstrate our solidarity. I wish to remind Bahamians and residents that the shopping schedule of the last 2 weeks remains. The weekday curfews and weekend lockdowns will continue until the health officials advise otherwise. What that means, Mr. Speaker, every weekend, beginning Friday, 9 p.m., it's a complete lockdown where nobody is allowed on the streets except special circumstances, and that continues until 5 a.m. Monday morning, every weekend for the month of May, unless advised otherwise. I thank those businesses, employees, and all who have complied with the regulations. Mr. Speaker, As of the 25th of April 2020, there are almost 800 individuals in quarantine. To optimize the intent of the quarantine and isolation period, and to simultaneously enhance the support and monitoring of those in quarantine, the Ministry of Health has undertaken the exploration of a number of solutions that are fit for a purpose. It is envisaged that through the simple action of downloading an app, quarantined and isolated individuals could use their cell phones in a manner similar to a walkie-talkie. And Mr. Speaker, I and the Minister of Health would have had a demonstration of how this particular app worked, and we were both very impressed. We would have had that demonstration yesterday, Mr. Speaker. With the touch of a single button, they may connect instantly with care agents. They may send an emergency assist alert for rapid response, and they may also talk to family and friends in a secured space. This app will be designed to help individuals in home quarantine and isolation to stay within the boundaries prescribed by the surveillance team. This may further empower these individuals to do their part to protect their mother, father, sister, brother, neighbor, fellow citizens, and reduce the risk of exposure to and spread of COVID-19 within the country. I underscore, Mr. Speaker, that this app will collect anonymous data to ensure that the privacy of those using the app is respected. Health officials have repeatedly noted that a number of those who should remain in quarantine or isolation at home are not doing so, which could result in greater spread of the virus. I note that the emergency orders are being amended to enforce strict fines for those who break quarantine protocols. The orders are being amended, Mr. Speaker, that those who break quarantine will be fined up to $20,000 or spend 5 years imprisonment or both. Mr. Speaker, you break quarantine, we lock you up. Okay? You have your time to talk. Mr. Speaker, we know from other jurisdictions how rapidly COVID-19 spread in other countries or locales because individuals who were COVID-19 positive returned to their home countries without being quarantined. And Mr. Speaker, BPL would have just had a recent experience where individuals of such nature would have entered such premises and BPL were forced to close their entire operation that day and subsequently engaged in sanitizing such facilities. We cannot risk this in the Bahamas because this could lead to a wider outbreak of the virus. I know that this has placed a burden on some Bahamians overseas. I understand the frustration and worry of their families here at home. We are working to try to resolve this matter in the best interest of all concerned and in the best interest of the country. In keeping with the protocols of other countries, the government, Mr. Speaker, is finalizing plans to secure a mandatory quarantine facility to accommodate the return of a number of Bahamians in the United States to New Providence. At present, there are over 200 Bahamians who want to return home during the lockdown of our borders. And we are finalizing plans to bring those individuals home. But I must and Mrs. Speaker, I advise all those individuals who want to travel home that they should contact the Consul General in Miami so as they can be informed as to when they would be brought home. And Mr. Speaker, I would speak more about the protocols at a later time, but I would say at this time that all those individuals would be quarantined in a designated facility, and that facility will be guarded and protected by the Defense Force. And any individual who breach the boundaries of the Defense Force will be fined up to $20,000 or 5 years imprisonment or both. So, Mr. Speaker, I can say we are bringing our people home. Mr. Speaker, to emphasize the need to reduce community spread of this deadly virus, I wish to share with the House the assessment by health officials of the analysis of confirmed COVID-19 cases by Dr. Donnie Davis, an associate professor, PhD at the University of the Bahamas. The government's COVID-19 coordinator, Dr. Darrell Regis, provided notes regarding the impact of the restrictive measures put in place to mitigate the spread of coronavirus, COVID-19, throughout the islands of the Bahamas. She noted, and I quote, "The Ministry of Health tested all symptomatic and suspect cases of COVID-19 as recommended by the World Health Organization. During the period prior to the curfew restrictions, the country recorded increased number of cases every day and then daily." She further quote, "Following the first lockdown period, there was a decrease in new cases according to the exponential curve. At least 23 cases were avoided with the imposition of the restrictive measures, and additionally, lives were saved," end quote. Dr. Darrell Regis forwarded the report from Dr. Davis, noting that, quote, "models were developed with his support, and a team from PAHO, the Ministry of Health, and other international statisticians and mathematicians." Dr. Davis's report notes, "Building on the assertion that the difference between the predicted curve and the actual value is attributed to social distancing measures, it follows that social distancing resulted in an estimated reduction to 23 new cases by day 27, April 9, 2020. This, Mr. Speaker, is a 36% reduction in the number of new COVID-19 cases. Mr. Speaker, what they're saying is that our measures that we have implemented were working and are working, and has reduced the number of infected cases by 36%. The aforementioned estimated reduction of 23 new cases translate into an estimated reduction of 4 deaths over the past week. This death reduction estimate is based on the country's fatality record of 4 deaths for 41 confirmed cases. Without the social distancing measures, further quotes, we estimate, and this is the professionals, Mr. Speaker, the professionals, which involve the professor, ministry representative, and international representatives. They said, without the social distancing measures, we estimate the country would have recorded 10 deaths by day 27. And these unrealistic deaths represent a 33% reduction in the number of estimated COVID-19 related deaths by day 27. Again, Mr. Speaker, as a result of our management and measures implemented, we have reduced the potential number of Bahamians who may have died by 33%. Further, the reduction of 23 cases indicates a reduction in the caseload for the doctors and hospital resources and demand for beds. Mr. Speaker, my government will do all that we can to protect the vulnerable in our society. This is a time for national solidarity. As previously announced, the government is appointing a national food committee which will consult widely with many stakeholders in numerous fields. The major objective of the National Food Committee is to steer the coordination and collaboration of the public sector, private sector, and NGOs to increase food distribution nationally and fairly. This includes, in the immediate term, distribution of food to vulnerable individuals and communities. We must ensure, Mr. Speaker, that the poor and those struggling through the current economic downturn because of the pandemic have sufficient nutritious food. We must also ensure that those affected by Hurricane Dorian continue to have food. I wish to emphasize that many more Bahamians are vulnerable to food insecurity as a result of COVID-19. This includes, but is not limited to, the newly unemployed, self-employed individuals whose businesses are adversely affected, senior citizens unable to leave their homes because of the virus, school children who do not have sufficient food, and some patients and those who provide them with care at home. Mr. Speaker, the National Food Committee will coordinate with various food sector agencies and groups for the distribution of food to the vulnerable. And these agencies and groups include, but are not limited to, the Ministry and Department of Social Services, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, the National Emergency Management Agency, the Disaster Recovery Authority, domestic and international NGOs, civil society groups, philanthropic organizations, and private citizens and businesses. The National Food Committee, Mr. Speaker, will help to determine the need for engagement of food workers, both formally and informally, to help with the preparation and distribution of food. The committee, Mr. Speaker, will make recommendations on the delivery of food for vulnerable individuals. This will be done in consultation with the Ministry of Health and the head of the COVID-19 Health Task Force. Mr. Speaker, the committee will communicate with wholesalers and retailers to confirm the status of food supply chains in the country and make recommendations on how to keep these supply chains viable. The committee, Mr. Speaker, this national committee will put together a national digital food distribution plan to ensure that every Bahamian in need is provided with food. Mr. Speaker, it's essential to put this digital distribution network together so that we would know throughout the length and breadth of the Bahamas, once those individuals are within the digital system, we can keep abreast and ensure that those individuals are adequately supplied and supported with their food needs. It would also, Mr. Speaker, reduce the possibility and chance of double or triple dipping with individuals moving from one distribution center to another, because it's all a national digital food distribution network. And this network, Mr. Speaker, would be able to incorporate various different sectors of society. Once the plan is digitized or digitalized, we can incorporate the taxis into the delivery mechanism to ensure that food are delivered to the various distribution centers, and taxis can become involved and subsequently help in this employment network. And even the buses, as we know today as jitneys, can be retrofitted and subsequently be incorporated in this national digital development food distribution plan so as to incorporate a network of entities. And the distribution centers, Mr. Speaker, may be those that we know today and can also utilize all of the urban renewal centers, not only in New Providence, but throughout the Family Island. And Mr. Speaker, we are digitizing our food network so that we would be assured that each and every Bahamian is looked after, and we would not have or not engage in the possibility of double dipping, triple dipping, home run dipping, and whatever dipping, ignoring or marginalizing any individual. Mr. Speaker, let me add that the government will promote and strengthen industries in pork, poultry, and beef, and is committed to protecting local industries. And I know that my Minister of Agriculture is eagerly awaiting to commence such industries. Further, Mr. Speaker, the Food Committee will also make recommendations on the enhancement of delivery services and the kinds of digital platforms required to boost home delivery. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased that Mrs. Susan Oloresco Larson, MBE, has agreed to serve as coordinator of the committee, and Mrs. Larson has an impressive record of public service. She is a co-founder of Ride for Hope Bahamas and the Bahamas Hope Foundation, which raises hope and resources for Bahamians fighting cancer. She's also a co-founder of Bahamas Strong, which was established last year in response to the unprecedented destruction caused by Hurricane Dorian. She helped to spearhead the country's private sector response to Dorian, as well as the initial coordination of the international NGO community. With her long-standing business experience and commitment to public service, I am pleased that she has agreed to serve in this new capacity. The members and stakeholders represented on the committee will soon be informed. Mr. Speaker, last week I advised that the government would implement a program to assist individuals who have rental obligations and whose income has been impacted by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Today, I wish to announce the details of such program and how it is to be administered. This program, Mr. Speaker, is limited to residential rentals only. It is only for those whose employment or income has been affected by COVID-19. Individuals will have to provide documentation to their landlord to qualify for this program. Those who qualify for this program will be able to defer, or in other words, to postpone a portion of their rent payment for the next 3 months. Landlords will be required to defer 40% of the rent due per month for this 3-month period, beginning with the month of April 2020. Landlords will not, for the 3-month period, be able to evict tenants who were in good standing prior to April. Landlords, Mr. Speaker, will not be able to disconnect the electricity or water for tenants who were in good standing prior to April. Mr. Speaker, I am engaged in the real estate industry, and before such laws or such rental processes was implemented, I had discovered that adjustments were already made to me before we embarked on such procedure. This means, Mr. Speaker, for example, that if the individual's rent is $800 per month, they will be required to pay $480 per month over the next 3 months. The remainder will be deferred or postponed. At the end of the 3-month period, individuals will have 12 months to pay back the deferred amount. This means that individuals will have to pay the unpaid rent back to the landlord, but will have a full calendar year to do so. I note again, Mr. Speaker, that landlords will not be able to evict any tenant who was in good standing as of March of this year. That means that there should be no evictions between now and the end of June unless the tenant had been already legally eligible for eviction before April. I want to be very clear, Mr. Speaker. This is not permission for individuals not to pay their rents. I advise those who are still able to pay, who are able to pay their full rent, to do so. Mr. Speaker, it is important to recognize also that landlords depend on rental payments for their own income and often to pay off their bank mortgages on their rental properties. And this is why those rental payments can be deferred, but they cannot be eliminated. I am pleased to advise that the commercial banks have indicated that they are open to deferring the mortgage payments of rental properties to the extent that landlords are affected by this program. And to qualify for this program, Mr. Speaker, a renter must meet the following criteria. They must be renting residential property inside the Bahamas. They must be paying a monthly rent of $2,000 per month or less. They must be no more than 1 month in arrears with rent. They must be a Bahamian citizen or legal resident. They must be able to demonstrate that their employment or income stream has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. And renters will have to provide the evidence necessary to show that their income has been impacted by COVID-19, and they will have to sign an agreement to repay the amount deferred. This will be mandatory for all landlords for their qualifying renters. In due course, I will present a revised order to give effect on this program. Mr. Speaker, it is my hope that renters and landlords can work together through this unprecedented time to implement this program with full cooperation by both sides. Landlords may, with the agreement of the renter, decide to provide a bigger deferment amount, and qualifying renters can decide that they want a smaller deferment or no deferment at all. I am asking landlords and renters to approach this with understanding and with patience. Many renters are on unemployment assistance and will not have the means to pay full rent. And many landlords have mortgage obligations to meet with the banks for these rental properties. They and other landlords also depend on rental income to take care of themselves and to take care of their families. The government's policy, Mr. Speaker, is intended to recognize that all parties, including the banks which hold mortgages, have a stake in this matter. I am asking for a sense of national solidarity, personal and collective responsibility, and goodwill by all. Neither renters nor landlords should seek to take any advantages at this time. The details of the program will be communicated in coming days. Mr. Speaker, our primary focus right now are dealing with the health challenges because of COVID-19, food distribution for the most vulnerable, social and economic assistance, and the maintenance of law and order. But we are also planning and preparing for the way forward and the very next steps so that we can begin to reopen our economy and our society more broadly. Let me emphasize that those who may have criminal intent in their mind will be dealt with swiftly and vigorously. We will maintain law and order, and we are monitoring gangs and others who are known to the police for criminal behavior. Mr. Speaker, The House will recall that I formed a broad-based National COVID-19 Coordination Committee comprised of a broad range of stakeholders. They have been meeting regularly, and they have been providing advice and recommendations on a full range of matters related to this pandemic. They have been working with medical professionals and other experts in their respective areas to develop the draft plans for what comes next, especially to gradually reopen the economy in phases. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that COVID-19 will be with us for the foreseeable future, even as our number of cases and those around the world begin to stabilize and even decline. For the immediate term, at least, we will need protocols and a strategy that will allow us to reopen our society and our economy in a way that protects the health and well-being of each and every Bahamian and resident. The Coordinating Committee has recommended protocols and a strategy that we will announce in due course. We must establish and adhere to a way of doing things that will allow us to open back up in a responsible manner. And such reopening will be gradual and will be deliberate. At each step, proper health and physical distancing protocols will be mandatory and will be enforced. Even as we look and plan to open back up, we will not and cannot establish a fixed timetable that says we will do this particular thing on one date and another on another date. While the government establishes plans, the general timing of the phased reopening recommended by the Coordination Committee will be predicated upon metrics and guidelines by health professionals. Mr. Speaker, just to give a sample of the phases that we had commenced and is being guided by the health professionals. Phase 1, Mr. Speaker, is divided into two phases, 1A and 1B. 1A, essential services and hurricane preparedness. We look at the economic, essential businesses, NGOs and churches providing food to the needy by permission. Home and hardware nurseries and auto parts stores permitted 2 days in store. Some would have had 2 days, others would have had 1 day. And that's spelled out in the order. Property management and landscaping, Monday through Friday. Manufacturing of PPEs and sanitizers, Monday through Friday. Then we also looked in phase 1A at the social component. 24-hour curfew, of which I spoke about. Monday, 5 a.m. to Friday, 9 p.m., after which, lockdown. Exercise, 90 minutes in neighborhood, Monday through Friday. Lockdown, Friday, 9 p.m. through Monday, 5 a.m. And exercise on own property. Then, Mr. Speaker, the next phase of implementation was phase 1B. However, I must remind all that these may change as we are guided by the health professionals. 1B, delivery and curbside services and construction. that is, from the economic perspective, businesses that can provide goods and services through delivery and curbside pickup Monday through Friday. Home and hardware nurseries and auto parts stores can expand to 5-day online delivery and curbside services. Then, permit construction in Nassau with industry protocols Monday through Friday. And you would note, Mr. Speaker, that there's always been incorporated a social component. Then we were supposed to embark on phase 2, 3, 4, and 5 as we open our economy. And phase 2 refers to expanding operations. Phase 3 refers to beginning the new normal. And phase 4 talks about moving forward. And phase 5 speaks about restarting tourism and opening the borders. Mr. Speaker, we do have a plan in reopening our economy, but our plan is guided by the health professionals and the discipline and cooperation of each and every Bahamian citizen. While the government establishes, as in other jurisdictions, Mr. Speaker, we must also have the flexibility to make changes quickly and to tighten restrictions if the numbers do not move in the right direction. Mr. Speaker, our airport and seaport partners, as well as the hospitality industry, are themselves working with their counterparts around the world to develop international and regional standards for the transportation and lodging of individuals in the COVID-19 landscape. We will review these standards and accept those that we feel are appropriate for the Bahamas. And I want to inform the Bahamian populace that over the weekend, on Saturday and Sunday, I would have been in communication, I've spoken to the Prime Minister of Barbados, who is the chairman of CARICOM, and I would have spoken to the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Alan Chasame, who are working aggressively and progressively to institute and to complete the CARICOM plan with respect to opening our hotels and having our airlines flying not only domestically but internationally. And I'm happy to announce that our Bahamian professionals from tourism and airport authority, NAD, are also involved in establishing international protocols so that our hotels and our tourism product can be jump-started and take off like turbo engines. We will also, as necessary, Mr. Speaker, implement our own specific standards where we feel various regional and international standards do not match our reality. We have started to reopen small parts of the economy to allow Bahamians and residents to access hardware and auto parts, among other items. Any further reopening will be guided by the advice of our health professionals. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the Cabinet Office announced the Economic Recovery Committee. National Coordinating Committee is a committee representing various national stakeholders to advise the government generally. The Economic Recovery Committee is a group convened to draft a medium and long-term strategic vision for recovery along with proposed implementation plans. The co-chairs of the committee are Acting Financial Secretary Mr. Marlon Johnson and businessman Mr. Ken Kerr, CEO, Providence Advisors. The Economic Recovery Group is made up of individuals and noted expertise and experience from the private and public sector. This group will consult widely at home and abroad with representation from myriad industries. Mr. Speaker, I should also announce that this group will form subcommittees so as to involve all family islands and other stakeholders throughout the wider Bahamas. This would give, Mr. Speaker, Bahamians, all Bahamians, an opportunity to put forth their views with the economic direction of our country. And this public-private committee will make recommendations to the Cabinet on the long-term economic recovery of the Bahamas economy, including job creation and stimulating small business recovery and development in response to COVID-19. The committee will focus on restoring the macroeconomic economy, restarting a competitive business environment, economic diversification, tourism and transport, financial services and labor. Public-private partnerships will be essential in restoring and rebuilding our economy. I have charged the Economic Committee with thinking boldly and creatively in its deliberations. We are in a new era, Mr. Speaker, so we must think in new ways and think outside of the narrow confines of what is necessary or possible. Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused the worst economic crisis for our country in living memory. And due to international borders being closed, our tourism sector has shut down, and tourism is the heart of our economy. The virus and its effects make it difficult to predict when tourism will return. We have the most dynamic tourism economy in the region. We will do all we can to be ready to receive and host visitors when they can travel again. However, in the interim, while travel has stopped, we must explore what else we can do to make it through in these difficult times. The purpose of this Economic Advisory Group is to give practical, innovative, and doable policy recommendations for the way forward. We need the minds and hearts of this committee to contribute ideas that Cabinet and the Parliament can consider to boost our economic circumstances. This is not the time, Mr. Speaker, and I repeat, this is not the time to be timid. This is the time to be bold. The time to be innovative. I see even the member for Centerville agrees. The time to be daring. And Centerville, the time to be courageous. You ready to come back? What I needed, Mr. Speaker, what I needed are ideas that can generate economic activity and trade on a pathway to those that is doable. This committee must think quickly, as we are in a crisis now. They must not delay decisions. Ideas from all existing sectors should be reviewed. Ideas in sectors we are not yet in must also be pursued. We must use our individual and collective Bahamian imagination for greater self-reliance. We will continue to promote and to encourage the manufacturing of local products. The new face mask industry is doing well, and by some estimates may be valued between $6 to $9 million per year. And Mr. Speaker, I am also happy to announce that Bahamian industries and manufacturers are stepping forward. While sanitizers are difficult to obtain because of the need by the globe, by the world, Blanco Bleach has embarked on a new lemon fragrant sanitizer. And Mr. Speaker, this is locally made. And this government has made a commitment that products that are locally made will be protected because we must start producing our own. Oh, it smells so great. Yes, I brought one for you. David, give them this. This is a time of solidarity, a time of unity. This is yours, a time of sharing. Mr. Speaker, I'm also happy to announce that another company, John Watlings, have also embarked on sanitizers. And Mr. Speaker, as these two company products are brought forward and produced for our market, they can be assured, like we have protected the mask industry, that we will, as we move into this new frontier, we will protect our local industries. Mr. Speaker, I thank Bahamians and residents for their suggestions and ideas. As of Sunday, April 26th, we have received more than 1,700 suggestions that have submitted ideas through the opm.gov.bs suggestion platform. We are in the process of sorting these suggestions, which are poured in from New Providence, from Grand Bahama, and the Family Islands. And Mr. Speaker, I was so proud to see so many suggestions coming from the Family Islands. And I can say here, without fear or without favor, that I am proud of my Family Islanders. And I look forward for us to get over this COVID-19 so that I can again continue to spend my weekends among our Family Islanders. The suggestions cover topics ranging from ideas on how to diversify our economy, how to address critical issues like food security, how best to reopen our economy, how to improve government services, and many, many more. We may not be able to reply to every suggestion, but we will carefully read every submission and ensure that it reaches the right agency for consideration. I encourage Bahamians and residents to continue to send forth their suggestions. We welcome the ideas. I thank the Bahamian people and residents for the solidarity they are demonstrating at this time. And Mr. Speaker, most Bahamians are playing their part in the fight against this virus. Many are staying at home and following the guidelines and emergency orders. Many students are learning at home while their parents are working from home. Some Bahamians are discovering new talents and new hobbies. Bahamians and residents are wearing their masks and practicing physical distancing. There are countless acts of love and kindness and generosity. We must all continue to play our part to stem this outbreak and to return over time to a greater sense of normalcy. Please continue to stay at home. Go out only when absolutely necessary, and go out by yourself, not as a group. As another world leader said, remember, it is not just about adhering to the letter of the law. The spirit of the guidelines is to reduce movement to a minimum and to avoid being out and about in the community. This is the way to protect yourself, your family, and everyone else. Mr. Speaker, we had introduced face masks several weeks ago, and just recently announced on the news that Germany, just this morning, has introduced face masks for all of its residents to use in public places and in some various states within Germany, in private places also. But we have done that more than 10 days before Germany. Mr. Speaker, in all things, and you can have, I couldn't tell if that was your mask or just normal. Anyhow, we talk about that later. In all things, Mr. Speaker, and at all times, let us pray unceasingly to the God who gives life and who is able to give new life and life abundantly. I wish to close with the words of a well-known hymn, which may be our shared prayer and hope. To the God of new beginnings we pray. Abide with me. Fast falls the eventide. The darkness deepens. Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. Stripped to its close ebb and life's little day, earth's joy grow dim, its glories pass away. Change and decay in all around I see. O thou who changest not, abide with me. I need thy presence every passing hour. What but thy grace can foil the tempest's power? Who, like thyself, my guide and stay, can be? Through cloud and sunshine, Lord, abide with me. I fear no foe. With thee at hand to bless. Ills have no weight, and tears no bitterness. Where, Mr. Speaker, is death's sting? Where? Brave thy victory. I triumph slow, still, if thou abide with me. Hold thou thy cross before my closing eyes. Shine through the gloom and point me to the skies. Heaven's morning breaks and earth's vain shadows flee. In life and in death, O Lord, abide with me. Before I close, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I have asked you'll have your time. Before I close, Mr. Speaker, I have asked the EOC, Ministry of Health, that whenever, however they can accommodate, they can give the opposition an update as to what's happening and the way forward. The problem they face, Mr. Speaker, is they are so tied down in work that it was difficult for me or for them to find a fixed date. But be assured that in spite of the work that they are doing and their business, they will from time to time find the opportunity to update the opposition and to listen to what may be the opposition's recommendation. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may God continue to bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Order that the communication be brought up. Order that the communication do lie on the table. Honourable members, just before we proceed, I wish to bring to your attention and to the attention of the public the Emergency Powers COVID-19 number 2, Amendment number 7 order, dated the 8th of April 2020. In paragraph 3 of that amended order, it says, insertion of new order 7A into the principal order. The principal order is amended by the insertion immediately after order 7 of the following new order, order 7A, requirement to wear masks. And I'm bringing this to the attention because I've seen a number of persons moving about the community not wearing masks, and as I look around in this chamber, I see 1 or 2 members not wearing the mask. Now, I understand the difficulty and the challenge when you're speaking in terms of wearing the mask, because believe me, it was a challenge for me just learning how to breathe wearing this mask. But the order says every person who leaves his residence, every person who leaves its residence in accordance with the provisions of this order and any exemption granted thereunder shall wear a mask covering his nose and mouth while away from his residence. And interestingly, subsection 2 says, an exempted business or undertaking may deny entry to any person not wearing a mask covering his nose or mouth. And so while we exempt those persons who are speaking from wearing the mask, I just want to put you on notice that if you get up to speak and you feel like you need to sneeze or cough, you'd better find a mask quickly, because if you sneeze or cough and you're not wearing a mask, I will ask you to withdraw from these precincts in accordance with the order. Further statements and communications by ministers. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Bamboo Town.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this will be the last communication by ministers. Then we will proceed with the House agenda to the resolution. Mr. Speaker, I now provide an update on the operations of the Road Traffic Department as it seeks to comply with the COVID-19 prevention requirements for physical distancing, minimizing the need to present oneself to the department to access services. The COVID-19 dilemma has made it clear that business as usual will be unusual. With that in view, I can confirm that the Road Traffic Department, with essential staff reporting, continues to operate between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. during the curfew period. Other employees who can work from home are encouraged to do so. The intent is to efficiently continue the work of the department while accommodating universal preventive protocols for in-person services and incorporating technology to facilitate others. At the outset, Mr. Speaker, I must recall and confirm that all licenses, whether personal or vehicular, that were valid on March 17th are extended until the 24-hour curfew is lifted and 60 days thereafter. That is to say, drivers that met this definition will not be penalized during this time for what would ordinarily be an offense. I will now speak to vehicle registration. Mr. Speaker, the generation of revenue to facilitate the work of government is a must. And notwithstanding the economic circumstances, there are drivers who are able to pay for services now. To accommodate this, a drive-through vehicular registration process has been implemented at the Road Traffic Department. Mr. Speaker, the process begins on the outside of the gate of the stadium, where customers remain in their vehicles and have valid insurance certificates available. Of course, the vehicles will bear the disc, or in the case of companies, inspection certificates and vehicle discs must be made available. Once these documents are in order, the customer will be allowed to drive through the service gate of the stadium at RTD. Mr. Speaker, while remaining in their vehicles, their documents will then be collected by one of the customer service runners, who will submit them for processing to agents inside the building. Cash will be collected in Ziploc bags or envelopes and submitted to the cashiers. If the client is using credit card payment, a cashier will assist with the use of a handheld portable credit card machine reader, which has allowed clients to now remain in their vehicles. The card reader is sanitized by the cashier continuously. Once the payment process is completed, the customer will receive their receipt and all of the newly issued evidence of licensing and inspection, the decals, from the customer service runners while they remain in their vehicles. Mr. Speaker, in order to speed up this service now and to reduce interaction during this COVID crisis, the vehicle inspection component required for the renewal of a license issued under the Road Traffic Act, Chapter 220, has been suspended for the duration of the state of public emergency. There will be no vehicle inspection portion of the licensing for car renewal period during this time. Mr. Speaker, I will now move to the driver's license. Mr. Speaker, driver's license renewal will be processed similarly with a separate car line queuing to the designated lane at the Road Traffic Department. Once the customer's license is sanitized, the card will be checked to ensure that the cardholder is seeking to complete the renewal of the card. Once all necessary documents are provided, a runner will transport the card to the data entry clerk inside the building. After the completion of the renewal process, funds again will be collected in an envelope, Ziploc bag, and submitted to the cashier. However, if the customer is using a credit card payment again, the cashier will assist with the portable card reader. Once the payment process is complete, the customer service runner will bring that renewed driver's license to the customer waiting inside their vehicle. Mr. Speaker, we recognize the need to re-engineer and to enhance our services in this new dispensation in order to ensure the continuity of quality service in the future and after this COVID crisis. Hence, after the COVID crisis, only newly imported vehicles will have to present to the Road Traffic Department to be licensed and inspected, and for the relevant information to be inputted into the system. Mr. Speaker, in regards to the renewal of vehicle registration, we are working with the Transformation Unit in the Office of the Prime Minister to devise a means by which the need for inspections could be devolved to government-designated or authorized entities, mechanic shops, etc., after the COVID crisis. Mr. Speaker, once the customer has provided the Road Traffic Department with a letter from the reputable government-designated agency who facilitated their vehicle inspection, then the licensing process can continue as is. This fact of the process is not unusual or far-fetched, in that currently the Road Traffic Department's policy mandates that in order to have a vehicle registered that has not been roadworthy or on the road for more than a year, a letter then has to be presented from your mechanic or mechanic shop. A letter requiring and advising that the said vehicle has been inoperable or off the road for the period in question and that the vehicle is now repaired and roadworthy. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, it is also my understanding that the Insurance Association has agreed to a meeting to discuss information sharing with the Road Traffic Department such that the digital insurance policies could be uploaded directly from the insurance agencies to the Road Traffic Transportation Management System, TMS. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the Data Talk system does not have the requisite capacity to receive the insurance information from the insurance companies. This feature, however, Mr. Speaker, will also be included by this weekend, Friday, the 1st of May, 2020. And insurance companies will be able to upload the insurance form directly to the TMS system for renewal purposes. Conversely, the insurance companies will also be able to digitally advise of those persons whose insurance have lapsed automatically, prompting the Road Traffic Department and the police to the lapse in insurance policy. Mr. Speaker, currently the Data Talk Consultancy TMS system cannot accept renewal of vehicle registrations online. I am advised that that part of the portal also should be completed by this week ending Friday, the 1st of May. Thereafter, we will be able to allow individuals to upload information and register online for vehicle registrations and renewals. Mr. Speaker, provisions will also be made to receive monies online for the vehicle registration. This will comport with our previously stated objective to have a predominantly cashless system for the operations of the Road Traffic Department that automatically remits to the Treasury. Once this is achieved, the customer will need only come to road traffic in the future to pick up vehicle decals. Mr. Speaker, the traffic management system instituted by the former minister, which is presently on the road traffic website, has online driver's license renewal services available. However, customers cannot pay for the driver's license renewal online. To effect online payment, the Department of Transformation is working with the Data Talk Consultancy to make this service further operational by connecting it with a Royal Bank of Canada gateway facility so that customers can make direct payments through this online portal to the Treasury for license renewal. This is a goal we intend to realize in the short term, hopefully by the end of this Friday, this weekend. This verification, Mr. Speaker, would also allow renewals, again as I said, to be totally completed online. The customer will then have the choice of either picking up the license or conversely the Road Traffic Department can ship the license either locally or internationally to customers. These aspects of the system may have to be further reviewed to determine the legality of mailing the document. A noteworthy alternative, Mr. Speaker, is to have licenses placed on the cell phones of customers, similar to how apps are installed on phones. We will also seek to exploit this technology for the ease of doing business. Mr. Speaker, admittedly, this is a work in progress, and so I would be remiss not to advise that our efforts continue as it relates to several key and pertinent issues which relate to the following concerns that will need to be addressed. First, the fact that the process of inspection is a manual service that is mandated by the Road Traffic Act. We will need to legislate and address this issue. The need to establish an online portal for the Bahamas Government Services, which will facilitate cash payments, as we have previously stated, is one of our primary objectives. 3, the need for the transformation unit at OPM to establish a platform for the Department of Road Traffic to use during the period of the emergency order, and to also complete the online portal when the Road Traffic Department returns to normalcy. We have had a promise that OPM and the transformation unit will do that. Mr. Speaker, we are cognizant that from a revenue intake perspective, that outsourcing of the inspection portion of the registration process would necessitate that there be a reduction in the cost for the customer. However, it is noteworthy that the government will receive VAT payments on the outsourced inspection by the designated or recognized authority. In addition, we will explore instituting a fee for the digital licenses to be placed on mobile phones. We also recognize that some aspects of the registration process will have to be retained for new imported vehicles. This said service will also carry the existing inspection fee. Mr. Speaker, we believe that these new and improved measures will enhance the quality of service the Road Traffic Department provides to the Bahamian people during this crisis and beyond. So, Mr. Speaker, with that, God bless you, God bless, and keep the bold and beautiful Bahamian people. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Order that the communication be brought up. Order that the communication to lie on the table. Further statements and communications by ministers.
Further communications by ministers.
Thank you. Communications by the clerk. Messages from the Governor General. Messages from the Senate. Motion for leave of absence, leave to resign, seat, and new writs. Presentation of petitions. Presentation of reports of committees. Adoption of reports of committees. First reading of bills. Second reading and committal of bills. Committee of the whole House. Third reading and passing of bills. Consideration of Senate amendments. Resolutions. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Angleton.
Thank you, Speaker. I don't think the member indicated the opposition has agreed to this resolution being debated despite the fact that it's not the 24 hours. But of course, sorry? Oh, you're going to move? Okay. But I think there was a question that arose about the amount of time, and we do not agree that the time of members should be abbreviated. So we just want to put that on the record. The rules allow for 30 minutes or whatever it is, and we would expect that the opposition would have that per speaker. And that was conveyed previously to the leader of government business.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Bamboo Town.
Mr. Speaker, it was conveyed, and the government conveyed back to the opposition desire. Mr. Speaker, we're not seeking to try to be in this place any longer than we have to. And at the end of the day, in the past, Mr. Speaker, we did have agreement from the opposition as to the time frame when it comes to the particular resolution and to the amount of time that is accorded both to the opposition and to the government. We've accorded to the opposition an hour and 10 minutes, and we were according to the government about an hour for us to speak, with each of the 4 members who are going to speak after the Prime Minister, 10 minutes set. The independents, Mr. Speaker, obviously both of the independents want to speak. So between the opposition and the independents, they were going to be allotted an hour and 30 minutes, whereas the government was going to have about an hour. So we're seeking, Mr. Speaker, and we had put it on the floor, and we thought that there was agreement.
Honorable members, honorable member, I'm trying to communicate. Honorable members, my understanding is that the House can regulate its business. So the chair would recommend then that whatever the position or the motion is, that it be put to the House, and once the House agrees, we'll proceed accordingly. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Bamboo Town.
Mr. Speaker, I do move a motion in regards to... Mr. Speaker, I do move that the House suspends for about 5 minutes so that we can have a brief moment to confer on our side. I could do Rule 46C, but we will confer on our side, and we will get back. So I do move that the House suspends for about 5 minutes.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the business of this House do suspend for approximately 5 minutes. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those who oppose will stand. The business of this House stands suspended for approximately 5 minutes.
Very good.